from now, an atheist will be elected president.
No, at some point, but this is how you do
prophecy.
prophecy.
I'm wrong, try and hold me accountable.
This is how we do the prophecy. We don't set a time frame. We just say it will happen.
Yes,
and then,
eventually.
And at a certain point, right? Well, never say never, right? But here we are now on the cusp of possibly, if the court case goes well, we may very soon have nationwide same-sex marriage legalized, and this was certainly not something that would have been imagined even remotely possible as recently as a decade ago. So we have an African-American president. This was not something that people would have thought possible long ago.
So I'm pretty sure there will be a woman president before there is a gay or atheist president, but I don't know which of the other two will come first.
I'm going to hold you to that prophecy. So, right. I mean, who knows? Eventually, maybe. Yeah, just attitudes do change, so...
Okay, yeah, I mean, right now there's people who have this superstition, and if anyone else doesn't buy into it, they're not comfortable with having that person make decisions for everyone, which is, I think it's unfortunate, because whether you believe in God or not has nothing to do with, you know, how good or bad of a person you are, or what kind of a public servant you be.
Look, I'm pretty sure that I've heard of at least one country that has elected their national leader who does not believe in God.
Australia, the new Prime Minister of Australia.
Yeah, Australia has an atheist.
So, I mean,
I believe.
We have empirical evidence that it's possible in some places. So the real question is, when is America's national attitude going to catch up to the rest of the world?
Yeah.
Or when is the rest of the world going to catch up to super progressive Australia?
Although, again, she just disappointed a whole lot of people down there by coming out against the same-sex marriage thing. So, that was,
there will be
probably her own
political
president. So, but still, yeah. So anyway, yes, we both prophesy that it will happen at some point.
Okay. Well,
oh no, we're not non-prophets.
I'm going to let you guys move on.
Okay. Well, thank you for your call.
All right. Martin, before I came in, did you manage to get out any announcements?
I did, actually.
Okay. Oh, great.
I read them from the computational device thing that's sitting right there.
Amazing.
Isn't it great?
Tell me of this new technology.
Well, you see, you push buttons and you make it go.
Okay. And did you mention that we will be meeting at Threadgills on Riverside?
I remembered that, because that's a thing we do. Yes.
Okay. Well, just in case people need us to say it again, at about 6:30, we'll be at Threadgills on Riverside Drive in South Austin. Ooh. So, yeah, and for those of you just listening to the audio, we were just pointing at the address popping up on your screen.
Yes.
But if you weren't watching live, remember to come to Threadgills sometime, and you can look it up on the website.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to go to Michael in San Diego, and I think this is going to be fun, too.
Yes.
Hello, Michael.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Great, glad to hear that. Glad I was able to get through. There's like a million things I'd love to chew your brain about, but just the one for now. Have you ever heard of the work of Richard Feynman, I guess his name is?
Feynman. I'm a big fan of his, actually.
Awesome, so awesome. I'm not a preacher and I'm not a scholar. I'm just a regular guy, looking out, trying to get some sense out of it all. But one of the things I wanted to I guess, pick your brain about would be basically his research in vacuum energy, and where by our traditional means we would say there should be nothing there, but exponential energy comes out of that. And then a follow-up to that, if you have any ideas about kind of what that means, the omnipresence of it, the fact that it was around before matter, potentially, and that, the difference between, the different atoms that we have is just the vibrational frequency of that, and then how that might relate to consciousness from your perspective.
I'm not sure I followed all that. First of all, you do know that Richard Feynman described himself as an avowed atheist, right?
Yeah, which I am as well.
Okay.
But despite that, I don't like to be the kind of guy to say that I know anything.
Neither do we.
I'd like to be awesome. Yeah, I'd like to be open. And just since that's something I've personally kind of been struggling with lately, for someone who's been of the opinion that there is no God whatsoever for a number of years at this point, to learn that there is a presence that underlines everything else. It literally is the fabric of everything in the known universe that is omnipresent, that doesn't necessarily rely on, the time aspects that we feel nowadays, everything is bound to. just how maybe I can feel about that, or maybe if I can learn someone else's perspective. There aren't a whole lot of atheist folks that I feel comfortable talking to out here. This environment's super conservative, and it really feels like an awkward place to be an out atheist.
You looked like you wanted to talk.
Well, I was simply going to say, assuming that we in this conversation we are even remotely describing this in an accurate way, and I am looking over at Mark Lowy, one of our fine members, who is also a
Physicist.
a physicist himself, and has written a graduate level textbook on quantum mechanics. He, assuming that this description is accurate, if there is this sort of underlining force, whether it's the Higgs boson particle or whatever you want to say, that is omnipresent throughout the universe, well, why anthropomorphize that thing, right? I mean, there seems to be this immediate temptation to sort of say, oh, well, maybe that thing is God, or maybe this unknown ineffable force is the deity that everyone's. Why? And how can we now say that there's no God when there's this stuff? Well, it is natural, I think, among people to want to understand the universe we live in our own terms, which is why we anthropomorphize things. And I think that this is where gods come from. Going all the way back to the dawn of civilization, if you thought that the sun was some god riding his chariot across the sky, that was a way to put these things in the universe that you didn't really have the data to understand properly yet. You put them on your own terms, and so you put a human face on this stuff, and it makes it comprehensible. So all I can say, we're both non-physicists here, right? So just talking as regular guys, I would say until we know more about what science can actually tell us about these particles or this material, what can we say about it other than it is stuff that is under study? And beyond that, why attach a label like God or anything else to it until we know more?
I mean, if somebody was coming at me from a theistic perspective saying, how do you explain this? My answer would be, I don't know. What does it have to do with God? I mean, when they call something a god, they're intentionally applying a word which has a whole bunch of extra connotations to it that people understand and assume they know what they're talking about. And I think the question is in, sort of nailing down what they think of as a god. I mean, does it have a consciousness itself? How do you know? What does it do? What is it capable of doing? How do you know any of that stuff? Did it write the Bible? Because it sounds to me like people are eager to throw around difficult scientific concepts that we haven't fully come to grips with. And any scientist will tell you there are lots of those. I mean, there are lots of things about the universe that we don't entirely understand yet, but there's nothing so far that's actually justified applying that label God to it. Because what does that even mean?
But certainly guys like Deepak Chopra have found a way to make a whole lot of money by just, they point to all these gaps in science and quantum stuff that he knows nobody understands, and so he just has, this becomes his marketing pitch now. Right. I'll just call all this quantum stuff God.
Yeah, if it wasn't quantum mechanics, he'd latch on to whatever other frontiers of science have yet to be explored fully.
Right. And then I guess just the only other thing that I was really wondering about as it pertains to that, I don't want to put a face on it, and I think that's part of the problem is that too many groups have tried to put a face on it, and you really can't. But in the spirit of, spirits, I guess, and when people pray, it doesn't matter if you're a Jew or a Muslim or a Christian or a Mormon, people have kind of seemed to suggest that at least intention does have an impact on matter. Even down to like those random event generators, they have people pull, and 80% of the time, if they want it to come up zero, it comes up zero.
The experiments don't actually bear that out.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
trouble with the internet,
if people tell you that this is backed by solid scientific evidence, you should actually look for it and see if it was actually published in a mainstream venue and therefore exposed to criticism by real scientists. Because it's easy to devise an experiment which doesn't actually measure up to the scientific method. It's easy to to have a study done that's not double-blind, that basically the outcomes are influenced by the bias of the researcher. All kinds of things can go wrong, and fake science is something that fake scientists love.
Yeah, just so one other thing that you should just always, especially in email debates, this is really easy. If you're emailing back and forth with some sort of Christian or some sort of New Age woo believer or what have you, and they cite some belief that they have and claim that it was backed up by this, that, or the other scientific study and research and what have you, just respond with a little Wikipedia thing, citation needed, and let it go at that, because it is up to them to provide that. So, at that point,
Right. I mean, it's my policy to always ask for specifics. Like, actually, the first caller, he said, you know, well, how do you explain all of these prophecies? And my reaction was, well, I can't explain all of these prophecies. What is one?
Yeah, and that's what we were trying to get through. The point we're trying to make with Ray was that, I mean, how do you know that a particular thing happened because a prophecy, you know, because it was some sort of divine presaging or and nothing else?
How do you know that it was anybody telling the future and not just, you know, sort of bringing it about through desire?
Right, yeah, exactly.
I mean, and action, not, you know, the universe grants you what you wish, which is also bullshit.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, there's a lot of people waiting to talk to you. I really appreciate the time, and keep up the good work, fellas.
Thanks for the call, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Take it easy.
You take care.
All right, so we have Chuck in Austin. Austin, local call. Hello, fight over the buttons.
Hello?
Yes, Chuck.
Hello, how are you?
We're great.
Yeah, you were talking about the first caller there, Ray, and I remember him talking about how Christianity is the most popular religion today. Well, I guess Ray has forgotten about the Inquisition, where the Catholic Church went around Europe for about 850 years, banging on doors, and if you don't believe in God, they take you out and burn you at the stake. That's a pretty convincing
kind of skews the numbers a little
right
bit.
there.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I was, as far as the topic, coming out atheist, I was recently called to testify in a court. And the first thing that they do, you know, whenever you're going to testify, they ask you, do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? So is this a good time to say, well, I just happen to be an atheist?
Well, it's maybe a good way to get off of jury duty, but...
From what I understand, you're legally entitled to ask for a secular alternative that leaves that out, but the question is valid, which